So you probably got targeted for an ad. You're probably thinking about Ali Abdaal's program and you're wondering, is it actually worth it? You're probably stuck debating between, should I do the academy? Should I do the accelerator? And you're not exactly sure which one is the right fit. I'm actually on the Vegas Strip right now, and my goal is very, very simple. Just to make this the only video that you need to figure out whether it's for you or not. And I hope you don't mind as I look at my phone for my script. And today we're specifically going to break down a few things. The major problem that the accelerator and academy solves, the key differences between the academy and the accelerator, the pros of the accelerator, the cons of it, who should consider it, and who should avoid it, just like my ABG ex-girlfriends back in the past, and to tell you why I'm actually investing into the accelerator with my team this year. But damn, it is cold out here. Let's go back inside. So I'm not gonna lie, I bring a pretty unique perspective to the table. I've gone through most of the PTYA cohorts back in the day, which are outdated. So if you're gonna ask me like, oh, are the cohorts still alive? Not really. They've been gone for about a year or two at the time of the shooting. And my own YouTube journey has been kind of messy myself. Like I've actually been on YouTube for about 8 years now. I used to live in a creator house back in LA. I used to shoot like pharmacy videos in my car back in the day, but I only have 18.7K subscribers, which not complaining about. Very grateful if you're one of those subscribers. Hit the subscribe button if you want. But through all that, I can honestly share a lot of the mistakes and perspective on things that I didn't do, that I wish I did, so that you don't make the same mistakes. Also, at the time of the shooting, I'm Ali's fractional head of sales. So that means he is a client of mine. So while my perspective might be a little bit biased, it's a very inside point of view. Like I see the funds that go through the channels. I also interview all the students. So I have a pretty good grasp of who this is for, who this is not for. So just keep that in mind. And like I mentioned, I do handle most of the interviews for the PTYA Accelerator. And more importantly, I'm doing this video so that one, you don't waste your money on a product based off of like misaligned expectations, and two, just have a resentment-free experience, because honestly, all of Ali's programs, I've met some of my best friends through it, and I'll tell you a lot more about the benefits that I see in the program. And for full transparency, I am planning to buy the accelerator at the end of this year. Just gotta get the buyback from my editors, from my thumbnail designers, to make sure that we're all aligned. And if this video does help you decide whether you do the academy or accelerator or nothing at all, I'd really appreciate it if you guys use my affiliate link. I'll make sure that the link is updated for any special deals or anything like that. But just for context, things like the accelerator don't ever really go on sale from what I know at the time of the shooting. But I would appreciate the support. If you follow this channel, if you follow me personally, then you know I'm very big on zero cost education for the masses, paying it forward. I believe in putting out full guides, full courses. If you actually decide like, hey, you know what? Neither of the PTYA solutions really work for me, that is totally cool. Save your money. Seriously, this isn't out pushing another sale or anything like that. It's really about giving you guys different perspectives to help you guys make the best decisions possible. By the way, this wasn't sponsored. Ali did not pay me to put this, even though inherently we all have biases, and I'm just trying to be transparent about everything. Okay, with all that being said, let's get into review. I've also left timestamps so that you can skip around in this video and watch it completely. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so let's talk about a big problem that no creator really talks about. Most creators are lonely as So way back in the day when I was in my 20s and I was doing the YouTube channel, I did everything by myself. Yes, I was a solo creator back in the day. And I did this for like 6 years straight. And I can't believe I did not hire sooner. I must have been a professional dumbass or something, because it was really inefficient. But during that time, I taught myself a lot of things like how to edit in the back of a pharmacy. So I was using Final Cut Pro, how to make really bad thumbnails. It's pretty embarrassing. I spent a year or two just trying to learn Photoshop, and my Photoshop skills are still pretty trash. I learned how to shoot with my OG Canon T5i in my car in LA. I remember I used to park in K-Town and just yap to the camera back in the day before yapping content was cool. And during this time, I tried a lot of different things. I tried experimenting with like daily upload vlogs because it was the Casey Neistat days. I did that for like 2 to 3 years. Try to do cinematic stuff. I try to do high quality stuff and reducing the frequency. But honestly, none of it really worked. And honestly, I can quite say that I really sucked at it too. During this time, I told myself like, oh, I need to save money, or I can't afford an editor or thumbnail designer, even though I was making 6 figures as a pharmacist back in the day. Crazy. Success will come with more videos, which it didn't. And when I make money, I'll invest in a channel, which kind of was true, but honestly, it's the chicken or egg sometimes, because sometimes you got to invest money or energy into the channel to make money. And what I realized behind all this is that I was so wrong about everything. I was shipping out videos, I was improving, but the problem was it was happening at like such a slow rate, probably because I was spending on all the things on this small negligible task. Like I was fixating how to do jump cuts or how to put text on a screen when I should have really honestly been focused more on my content packaging, getting my ideas sexier, my thumbnails sexier, my titles sexier, things like that. And that's when I kind of realized the downsides of being a solo creator. Here's what I learned. I learned these 5 different things. One, I was paying a really, really high ignorance tax. So if you follow Hormozy at all, he always has this term called the ignorance tax.
I love saying this, but like the biggest debt all of us pay is ignorance.
In layman's terms, it's basically the price that you pay for not knowing something, whether that's wasted time, lost money, missed out opportunities, energy, aka known as opportunity costs. Everyone has to pay this tax to be successful, I guess. But the goal is to pay it off over time from experience, trial and error, or learning from people that know better than you, I guess. And that was a problem. Like when I was first starting my YouTube channel, I didn't really have a good baseline of what good/bad quality looked like. I didn't know what made a really good thumbnail. I didn't know what made a really good video edit. I was just going based off my gut and what I saw on YouTube. And it's kind of like the blind leading the blind. And so that lack of knowledge or experience really cost me a lot of time and effort, and I probably could have gotten to where I am like a lot quicker if I had someone in my corner. The second thing was I was just guessing a lot of my YouTube strategy at the time. I'll be honest, like this is a position that I'm trying to fire myself right now, and I'm partially firing myself right now at this time of this recording. But I was my own YouTube strategist, and I had like zero clue of what I was doing. I was spending hours on the small things like I talked about earlier, on things like, color grading, which I still suck at color grading and lighting and all that, instead of focusing what actually matters, which is content packaging. Honestly, everybody talks about hiring a video editor as your first hire. But for me, I think I should have hired a thumbnail designer. That was the most important role because they can not only make your thumbnails, they are way better than me at Photoshop, but they also help me come up with the content packaging of the titles and the different angles I can go with the video, the hooks and stuff. It's really dope. But instead, my dumbass was just like, I'm going to focus on the video and then I'm going to think about the thumbnail and title afterwards when the video's already shot. I can't redo the video at that point, right? And that was a pattern I kind of noticed, was that I was working a lot on the 2x task, not the 10x task. The tasks that can actually like really explode my channel. A good example of this is like, I noticed this happens with a lot of beginners because they focus on things like, what should my channel name be? But really at the end of the day, you're not going to get 100K subscribers from a channel name and deciding that. It really comes down to making really, really great content. And so the other third thing I realized was like, I had zero feedback loop. So when I was a solo creator, obviously I was working by myself. And when you're working alone, something that I didn't realize at the time, now that I'm saying this out loud, it's like, oh, duh. But it's like, I relied entirely on my own judgment of what was good, which wasn't very good at all because I was a beginner. I mean, it's good for creators like Matt D'Avella and stuff. Matt D'Avella talks about this all the time, but he created documentaries on Netflix and stuff like that. I didn't. I barely even knew how to turn on a camera. I didn't know what ISO or aperture was at the time either. And when I look back, the whole process doing videos without any feedback was kind of like trying to build the next iPhone 16 on your first try in your mom's basement. Yeah, good luck with that. On the rare occasions I did get feedback, I'd usually turn it down. They would be like, hey, you should do blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, no, but it was all because I had this sunk costs bias where I poured a stupid amount of hours into a video and I didn't want to get it shut down. Yeah, I just wanted to work out. It's a little bit of copium right there. And worse, when things didn't perform, instead of rethinking my strategy, I would double down and try to perfect things by myself and try to work harder and do more videos, right? The other thing I realized as a solo creator was that I was burning out doing everything. And it was just me for a long time. Like, I was doing all the work like idea generation, script writing, thumbnail design, shooting, editing. And oh yeah, I was also working at a 6-figure pharmacy job too. It's cool if you do everything yourself for the first few projects. But after a while, I was just like, man, this is such a heavy lift. And at the time I was like, oh my God, I'm so lazy. In reality, I was just doing way too much. It didn't occur to me that I was stuck in this cycle of feeling guilty because I didn't get things done or I missed a deadline, playing catch up, double downing, overworking myself, burning out, and repeating that over again. At the time, I was focusing way too much on trying to be consistent by brute force, focusing on my capacity and just being like, realistically, I can create X amount of videos at this type of quality and just being okay with it. And finally, the last thing was like, I had zero accountability. I noticed this with a lot of creators. if you don't upload, nothing really happens other than you feel really bad internally. Of course, I felt bad, but like at the end of the day, I didn't have to explain myself to anyone. I didn't have to report to anyone. There was no external pressure to keep me consistent at all. And even as I'm like reading through these things and reflecting back on these things, I'm like, oh my God, what the was I doing? Because at the time of the shooting, I'm firing myself for all these roles that I held on to for so long because I suck at them. I'm not good at thumbnails. I mean, I can edit pretty decently, but it's not like the high leverage move. And I'm actually looking for writers as we speak right now. And because of that, we actually had a video on this channel go kind of semi-viral off a dead channel that I didn't think would take off ever again, which is I'm super grateful for, by the way. I thought the algorithm hated me. But during this time when I was doing everything and I was going through the pains of a solo creator, these frustrations kind of hit a boiling point where a few things happened. Like one, my video output decreased because I was trying to make everything perfect and perfect every single detail, because every uploaded that I put out there was like a lottery ticket. It felt like I had to hit a grand slam each and every single time. Two, I started leading that perfectionism over to my team and trying to get their work perfect because I was like, I really gotta make this work out, right? This is very desperation type of energy. And also I felt like I was just throwing random at the wall, hoping something would stick. And then fun fact, I actually wanted to burn this channel a few times throughout the year, but I'm really glad I did. And then I found out about Ali's program, which honestly changed my life. So one day, my video editor at the time, he was like a huge fan of Ali. And he's like, oh my God, did you know that Ali Abdaal is launching a new course? And at that time, I was like, wait, who? I don't even know this guy. I might have seen his videos from like a few like Apple, like MacBook Pro reviews or something like that back in the day. But I was like, who the heck is this guy? I ended up buying the most expensive program for my editor so that we could use. And I think, Mike Tyson has this great quote, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And this was my punch in the face moment. I realized that I knew nothing about YouTube at the time. I think somewhere on the internet, you can find my older view of my like first experience. It's somewhere on this channel. But the TLDR from the first part-time YouTuber Academy experience I had was like, oh, I have zero systems, I have zero processes, and I'm not treating this like a business. I'm just like a total noob. And the only way that I could explain it was like I was drinking from the fire hose every day. And that is even itself an understatement. I was just learning so much. I was meeting really cool friends. What was cool at the time was like I got to sit through all 8 cohorts since I paid the highest package. What was really interesting was that I could tell that Ali and the team were just really burning out at the time from the cohort model. They eventually killed the cohorts, which honestly was my favorite thing in the world. They basically turned the course into an evergreen course, which is the academy that you see today. And they launched a new solution called the Accelerator. And I was like, what the is this? Well, let's kind of talk about it and break it down. Let's talk about the difference between the Academy and the Accelerator. So you're probably wondering 2 things. Which one should I take? And second thing, why is there a price discrepancy between the Academy and the Accelerator? Well, here's the tldr version. The Academy is a YouTube-based course, which is based on how Ali runs his whole entire channel. It has all the templates, the systems, and all the how-to stuff. The Accelerator is a service focused on YouTube advisory. So things like doing office hours, personalized feedback, and also accountability too. In short, if you just want the how-to or just knowledge stuff, or even the templates, I would go with the Academy. If you want the how to make YouTube work for me and possibly my future team or my current content team, and you actually care about things like feedback and getting more in-depth advisory specific to your situation, I would go with the Accelerator. Just keep in mind, not everybody can do the Accelerator though. You need to interview it. We also need to make sure that we have capacity for it too, because there's limited resources like office hours, right? You can't have like 100 people in office hours, or you could, but it wouldn't be that intimate. We'll talk more about that later. With that being said, let's break down the Part-Time YouTuber Academy. So if I had to give a one-liner for the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, it's basically how to do YouTube, also known as just the process. In my opinion, it's perfect for those who are kind of in the build phase of YouTube, who have like kind of zero idea of how to start, and they just want to know the step-by-step process just to get a kind of like a foundation down. At the time of this recording, the Academy includes a few things. For one, it comes with the Academy course. Think of this as like the YouTube SOP or standard operating procedures. So it walks you through everything from niching, idea generation, thumbnails, title, scripting, editing, repurposing content, and more. Plus, it comes with a lot of Notion templates and other tools. Fun fact, majority of people miss these because if you go in your course, they're all the way at the bottom. Just fun fact. The second thing it comes with is Creatorpreneur course, which focuses on like kind of like the beginning of workflow, monetization, outsourcing, and hiring for your channel, the best practices for that. Another thing I personally haven't gone through at all, but it's camera confidence and how to feel like confident on camera, how to not feel as nervous. And then the last thing it comes with is the PTYA events and community. And this is probably the coolest part. I met some of my best friends through PTYA, who I'm still friends today. Like I've known some of these people for about I think 4 years, believe it or not. Occasionally there's also additional office hours or Q&As with big YouTubers and specialists. In the past, we had people like Matt Diavella. Just quite recently, we had Matthew Dix from Storyworthy. He's like a storytelling expert. To be honest though, these events don't happen as often ever since the launch of the Accelerator, so just keep that in mind. But when they do launch, it is freaking awesome. It's like seeing old friends every single time when I go there. With that said, who is the Academy for? In my opinion, there's a few things. One, you want a full DIY solution, meaning you want to do it yourself. Two, you're looking for the knowledge, the processes and templates to launch and get a foundation for your YouTube channel. Three, you might be also curious to see the behind the scenes systems of Ali's channel and want to build on top of that. Four, you probably don't care about personalized feedback right now. Five, you want a more conservative approach to YouTube. You want to kind of test things, like dipping your toe in before you go all in. Totally understandable. You know very little about YouTube and you aren't sure you want to go all in. And also, this is a great solution if the Accelerator is just like a stretch. Not everyone can afford the Accelerator, which is totally understandable, no judgment, but it's there if you want to get started. By the way, pro tip, at the time of this filming, Ali's team allows you to credit the amount you paid for the Academy to the Accelerator if you do decide to upgrade later. So if this sounds like you can just stop here, save your cash, buy the Academy with my affiliate link, of course, and then upgrade later in the future for the Accelerator, or not buy any of them too. That's cool too. All right, so let's break down the Accelerator now. Like I said, if you had to sum it up in one line, it's how to make YouTube work for me and possibly my team if I had one, because some of you guys might not have one. When I think about the Accelerator, it's really designed for people who are in the scale phase or anyone thinking like, yo, I want to grow as fast as possible because I value my time and I want to throw money at my ignorance tax. This is probably you. The Accelerator focuses on two different things. One, if we're going to spend time, money, energy into YouTube, we want to maximize our resources and maximize the ROI of YouTube. The second thing is reduce the friction as much as possible with the content creation process. With the Accelerator, it's less about the how-to, it's more about providing advisory, accountability, and feedback loops to just help level creators up. When I think about it, it's kind of like the iPhone. We have 16 iterations of it now. This is actually Samsung. It kind of reminds me of the iPhone. Like when the iPhone first came out, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but it was really bad. It was very slow. It had a lot of Wi-Fi problems and all that sort of stuff. But then over time, iPhone became a lot better to the point where Apple can actually articulate what we want better than we can ourselves. And how did they get there? Well, there's three things. They probably got advisory, getting insights from the best phone people, UX design people, all that sort of stuff. There was probably some project management where they made sure that things were done on time. There was probably an element of feedback loops, not with the finalized product, but they had feedback loops throughout their whole entire process, not just at the beginning or end. And I think with YouTube, the Accelerator works in a very similar way, where the Accelerator focuses on three key areas. Number one, feedback. Like I said before, you just don't want feedback after a video is done and published. I mean, it is cool and all, but really, if you want to maximize your feedback, you need to get it earlier, more upstream in terms of that. We'll talk more about that later, but we want to make sure that we get feedback loops at every single stage of the process, just to make sure that one, our ideas are viable and we're testing out our ideas to make sure that they're interesting, that they're clear, they're intuitive. We'll talk about that more, and that we're shifting the odds in our favor. And with the Accelerator, this is what it looks like. One, you can get feedback on your content packaging, making sure that the thumbnail, titles, and topics are clickable, they're sexy, they're clear. And then you can also see whether an idea is worth pursuing or not. Sometimes during this whole process, you might be like, oh yeah, this idea is a bit confusing, or we need to change it a different way. So there's that. You can get a channel audit, which is a full review of your channel from the outside perspective, outsiders looking in, And in an insider's perspective, look at the things like the analytics. You can get one-on-one video reviews where you can have someone from our team, a YouTube strategist, review kind of the scripts, or you can have them review your actual video before you publish it as well. I think another feedback loop too is like content strategy. In addition, if you ever have any questions on any of your content, you can ask the specialists, which we'll get into next. The second part of the part-time YouTuber accelerator is the advisory. So you get something that you should know is that you get access to Ali's team of specialists. And yes, it's his actual team, or they've worked on his team in the past. You can directly DM them on Slack or just pop in the office hours. Just to let you know, they're usually around like 4 p.m. UK time. We'll talk more about that later. If you can't make those times, we'll talk about how to maximize that. But what I like to think about it as is like you have different kind of specialty departments. We have everything from social media to newsletters to general YouTube strategy to filming and editing to operations and more. At the time of the shooting, we also have a office hour with Ali once a month as a bonus. And then the third element of the accelerator is accountability. So I think about this very famous quote by Mike Tyson: everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So with the accelerator, you actually get a dedicated creator coach. And I like to think of them, if like the office hours are kind of the specialists, I like to think of the creator coach as your general practitioner. They know a decent amount. Most of them, I think, have been through PTYA, but when they don't know something, they can always refer you to a specialist when needed. You can use them in two ways, actually. Like one of the ways is like, yeah, you can use them as a creator therapist if you ever need a vent or anything like that. The other way is like a project manager. So you can actually meet with them like once a month. You can talk about anything that you like during that time. And then one of the things at the end is like you can set goals or intentions for the next month. And in between that month, in between the weeks, they can actually keep tabs on you, check up on you, escalate things if things aren't going well, or if some things like break, like, oh my God, Kevin, I got like copyright strikes, right? They can meet with you if an emergency pops up. But okay, who is the accelerator really for? And there's 3 people that it's advertised to. 1, business owners who want to build momentum quickly on YouTube, who want to kind of throw money at the problem, build out a team, scale, create their content formats really, really quickly. 2, it's advertised for creators with momentum who are ready to monetize. Maybe you have a few breakout videos and you're wondering like, okay, how do I monetize this content? Or B, how do I kind of keep this sustainable? The third thing is creators with existing teams or who want to eventually build a team. One of the questions in my head is that who it's really best for? We'll get into that by the end of this review, but let's kind of dive into the pros and cons, and more so the hidden ones that aren't advertised with the PTYA sales page. First of all, your entire team gets access to Accelerator. Something that is not advertised on our sales page is that this is actually a team enablement solution, meaning like, yo, your team has everything. They get access to kind of like the feedback, the office hours, the resources like the academy and all that, the Notion dashboards and all that. This does a few things. Like 1, you don't have to play telephone and just be like, oh, the PTYA team said, like, dude, they can just get access themselves. The second thing I think about is like, if you have a newer contractor, maybe it's like a good friend who's not super YouTube savvy, but they have the work ethic and drive, and you really want to work with them, you can set them up with all the accelerator stuff. And so they can like jump into thumbnails or learn how to edit, all that sort of stuff. So I find this really, really helpful when people are just trying to get feedback on their content packaging, their title, their thumbnails and topic. And also like if they're getting the one-on-one reviews too, they can actually directly get the feedback and make those edits. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But to hold everything together, you also have a monthly session with your creator coach, which kind of serves as a team meeting. The creator coach can not only like keep track of you, but they can also keep track of the people on your team too, and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. The next pro is you can reduce your perfectionism through feedback and advisory. So if you're anything like me and raised in an Asian household, you might struggle with perfectionism. And so like I mentioned earlier, like for many years, I've actually really struggled with trying to make every single video perfect. And I would have those same expectations on my team. And it was kind of really unfair. It put a lot of pressure on everyone. Yeah, it wasn't really great to work with me for a while. I'm sure my editor can agree. And then when I did publish that video, it would flop. And then honestly, putting in all that work made me not want to ship out my next video. Like people never talk about the down spiraling of perfectionism, but here it is. When I was a solo creator, this happened quite a bit. When I noticed myself hiring more, like hiring an editor and all of that, I realized that the more people I had just to talk to, or the more people that I delegated the work with, the less my perfectionism like really kicked up. My hypothesis is I have less like sunk cost bias. It's lower stakes if my idea gets shut down, and I was getting more feedback upstream versus downstream, if that makes sense. At least my perfectionism, it really came from like making sure I had validation of like, am I doing things right? Could I be doing things better? Or is everything just good as it is? And so instead of doing everything yourself and just hoping for the best when you publish, I think having a team like the Accelerator can really help you refine your ideas like more upstream before you shoot and downstream before you publish. And those two areas are really strong. Speaking about feedback, that leads me to my next pro. You can validate your idea before making the video. So in my opinion, one of the most valuable things of the Accelerator is just refining your content packaging and getting feedback on that, which hypothetically, it increases your click-through rate, which basically means how clickable is your thumbnail and title and all that. The reason why this feedback is so important is like, one, the most important thing is that you can validate your ideas, see if your ideas are any good before investing the time and resources. So you're not wasting effort on content that won't perform. Like, it hit me the other day that I kind of pay my video editor the same, I pay my thumbnail designer the same, I pay everyone the same. So, and it takes me roughly the same time to do a good video versus like a crappy video. So why not shift the odds in our favor by validating the ideas more upstream? And then as you ship things out, some things are going to naturally hit, some things aren't going to hit. That's totally normal. But over time, you can test different formats and build a content portfolio, kind of like an investment portfolio. Shout out to Aprilyn. She has this great video on video ideas where she has this great concept of content formats. There's 6 different types. You can watch her video for that. But then you begin to build this portfolio of like discoverable videos that are designed to reach new audiences. There's more community focused videos that are more relational and they deepen the engagement with your current audience. And then there's conversion videos that drive sales or go off platform, which YouTube punishes you in. And so you have these like different types of video intents. And then to top it all off, you have a mix between like high lift, like high energy, like videos that require higher production and more work, and low lift video formats too. And then over time, as you kind of learn your audience and you're just like, oh, this hits, this doesn't hit, you can actually systemize your approach to the thumbnails, editing styles, and overall strategy where it looks like a TV show. So that's what we're trying to like aim for. But what does this feedback look like with the Accelerator? Well, here's what I recommend. So before shooting a video, I would have your thumbnail designer or yourself create 3 different variations of titles, 3 different variations of thumbnails, 3 different variations of like angles or topics or like the approach of the video, and then 3 different hooks just to see what hits and what doesn't. You can drop that in Slack and our team will actually like give you feedback. And by dropping this feedback, we're trying to figure out 3 things. 1, what is the sexy idea for this video? 2, how do we make this idea sexier? And 3, is this idea intuitive? Meaning, is this idea so good that you find yourself automatically clicking without realizing it? And that's part of it. I mean, we all do this. If you're on YouTube, like there's certain videos that hits. Like I saw a Mr. Beast video where he's reacting to his allegations. I was like, ooh, I gotta click that. But I was like, wait, why do I want it? Why? Because I like drama, you know? Let's talk about the next pro of the Accelerator. You can maximize your video retention before publishing. So getting video after video is published is really helpful, but getting feedback before is a total game changer. Here's kind of an analogy, a healthcare analogy. Like hypothetically, during my pharmacy days, if I accidentally killed the patient, not like I ever have, by the way, a post-mortem would probably be useful. Be like, oh, we could have done this. Kevin, you missed this, but there's diminishing returns with that. Ideally, it would have been way more helpful to catch the issue earlier to actually save the patient before they die. And the same thing goes with your video. So what we want to do is identify potential issues and optimize before publishing to give your video the best chance to shift the odds in your favor and stuff. And so with the Accelerator, this is what I recommend. You upload the edited video as unlisted. You can get a one-on-one review from the team. You can make changes based on feedback or reshoot certain parts. I like reshooting different parts. Like, you know, I got really inspired by like a lot of vloggers and how they forget to do footage, and then next thing they're in the bedroom explaining things and stuff like that. You can do that. And then you can either A, publish it, or B, bring it to an office hour to get more input before publishing. And I think by catching these issues earlier in the process, you're just, again, shifting the odds in your favor and helping you maximize retention and performance from the moment the video is published, rather than just like praying that like people will watch the whole thing. The last pro for the PTYA Accelerator is that the office hours are actually ran by Ali's actual team. It's not a bunch of random contractors that we hire off of Fiverr or something like that. And I think being in this industry of high ticket sales, I've seen a lot of different offers kind of do sketchy things like that. And so you'll never have to wonder like, well, who am I getting advice from? I think that's the best part of the Accelerator is that you're getting advice from Ali's real team, not just random consultants. They either are working on Ali's team currently, or they have done their own adventures, but everyone is from Ali's like ecosystem. And in my opinion, it's like, well, that's pretty cool. It's not every single day that you get access to a 6 million subscriber channel, at least at the time of the shooting. Ali will probably be one of those 10 million subscriber channels pretty soon. And you might be like, well, like, what can I ask? I went to one of the office hours recently and someone asked Tintin, Ali's YouTube producer or YouTube strategist, like, oh, how do you decide which videos go up on the channel or not? And it's all those nuanced answers that you can't get through a course that you can find out. So like I've seen people ask about different monetization strategies, how to hire, how to create offers, how to do brand deal, and how to set up a set where you can just like come in, hit record and shoot, where you don't have to wander around like Las Vegas casinos to shoot, right? Like I am right now sitting on their floor. I think the most important thing about like the part that you're working with Ali's actual team, in my opinion, like being a client and actually working behind the scenes with them, you can just tell that they really care. It's one thing to say that you care, but it's another thing to actually feel it with the supportive energy. I've worked with a lot of clients in this space, and by far, Ali and the team generally care about the people. We're always thinking about how do we make the offer better and what things are not being resolved and stuff too. So chances are a lot of things that you will see will change. Things will be added, things will be taken away that aren't so helpful. But at the end of the day, the office hours are pretty killer because like if you really wanted to, you could show up to every single office hour, Monday through Friday, and just get Ali's advice on the team. And if you're wondering like, hey, if I can't make the time with the office hour, like what do you do? We'll talk about that soon. But no offer is perfect. So what are the cons of the Accelerator? There's just so much. It is really easy to get overwhelmed. It's actually one of the reasons why we added a creator coach, because there's things like the office hours, the course material, and then there's a lot in the course material. And like, what do you focus on? You're getting punched in the face so often that like things are just flying over your head, and it's easy to feel that you're behind. And in my opinion, I feel like the Accelerator could be simplified. It offers a lot, maybe too much. And chances are there's no way that you can maximize everything your first round through. When I chop it up with my personal friends who have done the Accelerator, a lot of times I find that they're not using their creator coach and just like, asking questions and utilizing it. Like the other day I was catching up with my friend and he was just telling me like, oh my God, I'm spending so much time on research and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, did you go to a team? Did you talk to like Ali's YouTube strategist? Did you like drop your idea in the Slack channel? He's like, no. I'm like, oh my God, you should do that because that's what you paid for, right? And so it's really utilizing those things. The second thing is sometimes there's quite a few people in the office hours. Something behind the scenes that you probably won't see or hear people talk about is that we monitor our office hours, like how many people are in each session, the amount of feedback that we get. On a good day, from what I've seen, there's like 2 or 3 people, but sometimes there's up to like 15 people. To be fair, a lot of people tend to come in the beginning and they're just like, okay, I have most of my problems. I don't need to go to these office hours as much. And there's that second type of person who just like lurks inside. So there's that. But something in the back of my head I think about is like, is this going to be a scalable model in the future? Will we be able to continuously have like office hours like we do right now, where it just feels very, very intimate? Truth is, probably not. But if you're like me and you're like busy sometimes and you don't want to sit through the office hours, then you can use what he calls the hotline. Whereas like you can DM people directly. You can send them a Slack message, send video, like voice recordings, video screenshots, all that. And your team can do so too. And then typically the team will get back to you within like 24, 48, 72 hours with the feedback. Like I said, I do wonder how scalable this is as we join. I guess we got to break it to find out. The next con is that the office hours are actually in UK time. So at the current moment, the office hours are at like 4 to 5 UK time, Monday through Friday, which if you're on East Coast, that's probably around 11 to 12, Central 10 o'clock, Mountain Standard Time 9, and like Pacific Standard Time, which is my time zone, is like 8 a.m., which is pretty early. I know that can be really rough for people in Asia or Australia. That's super rough. or those that are just working a regular 9 to 5 while trying to kick off this YouTube thing too. Personally, I don't think it's a deal breaker, especially if you have a team. If your team has access to all the office hours, they can attend as they need to. But like I mentioned, if you can't catch an office hour, not the end of the world. I think it's more of a nice to have. I just feel like having that access to be able to DM the specialist is way more important too. The next con is like, there could be a lot more opportunities to connect with other creators. Okay, I'm going to be very, very biased because one of the best things about my PTYA experience was like having the chance to meet other creators. Like through PTYA, I got to meet so many cool people like April Lynn, Alter, and like my friend Seaman, who won Creator of the Year, and my friend Angel. There's a lot of cool people I just met through PTYA. And I thought the network was like really strong. And so I know the team is working on this, but one of the things I suggested recently was like, dude, I would love for there to be more social hours and all that. For example, like I'm in a few other programs like Christo's Future Pro Groups, and they host like speed networking events like on AirMeet where people think about like speed dating with creatives. And I find that so helpful. I wish PTYA had something like that. That or like having like social hours and stuff. Having spaces like that is probably one of the best things that you can do for creators. With that being said, even though there are no official like social hours right now, if creator friends are really important to you, here's some tricks that I would recommend for you. It's like, one, we do have a directory, but two, I think this is a sneaky trick. As you build a relationship with your creator coach, they talk to everyone in the community, right? And so one of the things I would ask after you get to know your creator coach is like, hey, who in this community do you think you can introduce me to that I really chop it up really well with or get along with? I think that is a underutilized secret that I use all the time. Probably the creator coaches will hate me because I'm giving them more work, but gotta take care of you guys, man. Like I want to make sure that you guys get your like full value. I think like after you kind of make those initial friends, you can always form your like own friend pods or like do your own group too. That's always cool and super helpful. The next con of the Accelerator is that it's only 6 months. Just for context, the Accelerator used to be 12 months back in the day, over like a year or two ago. It was a year long. There was a few things that we noticed. We noticed that a lot of people were procrastinating. Like they pushed off creating videos because they're like, oh, I got like another 6 months. It's fine, right? I think it's Parkinson's law. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And at the time when we were doing cohorts, one of the beautiful things about the cohorts was like, we knew we had a limited time and every cohort felt like a short sprint. And that's kind of like what the 6 months feels like. The 6-month format feels like a sprint. It's not like a crazy amount of time, but it's not like too little either. And I find that these timelines are really important to help us focus and just make a decision and just commit. If you're like, okay, what happens after 6 months? You can renew, but I think you should focus on that way later. Usually people either choose to renew or they're like, dude, I'm set. I don't really need your help anymore, which is totally cool either way. So yeah. I also gave some requests that I gave to the PTYA team that hopefully we're working on, but I've seen these on other offers or even implemented my own like mastermind offer where like one, you have a preferred vendor list for editors, thumbnails, designers, and all that. 2, having a swipe file of hooks and openers, that would be really cool. And 3, just more networking events to just like help creators connect and collaborate. Like that's the one cool thing I would say about interviewing everyone is like I get to meet so many different creator friends and stuff. It is really cool. So yeah. So now that we know the pros and cons of the Accelerator, who is it actually for? The interesting part is like, I do have access to refund data, even though we don't get a ton of refunds. I do see the people who are kind of like, oh, unmatched expectations or different expectations of what they thought it would be. You are a business owner building your own personal brand. If this is you, I think this is a no-brainer, especially you have high ticket offers. There's nothing like YouTube that builds that relationship with people. I mean, you don't see the same engagement with short form content or anything like that. If you're wondering why this actually makes sense, chances are you already have offers, funnels in place already. So it's pretty easy to start publishing videos and drive it to your lead magnets and backend funnels and all that. 2, I think content just makes sense. One of the things that people don't really talk about with content is that it lowers the sales friction throughout the whole entire process. So if you have really great content, your sales team doesn't need to be as good. You don't need to convince people. There's like a relationship building like parasocially that is happening, which is really strong. Like half the time, like chances are if you're watching this video, you probably watched quite a bit of Ali's videos. You kind of know his personality. You've seen the iterations of him talking about building this part-time YouTuber academy. And so there's an initial trust that is built already, right? Having a great brand and having great content just helps throughout the whole entire sales process. The third thing is If you are a business and you have cash flow, Alex Hormozi's idea of the ignorance tax really applies here. If you value your time and more importantly, your energy, like I value my energy quite a bit, and you want to learn from experts and you have money to throw, this is for you. And then finally, like if you are a business owner trying to build a brand, there's this team enablement like thing that I was talking about earlier, where you can onboard your thumbnail editors, your thumbnail designers, your video editors, and just improve their skills while integrating them into that workflow. So I think it makes perfect sense for these people. The next person I think would benefit is that you're a creator with momentum. So maybe you've had a few breakout videos and you're at the point where it's like, well, one, how do I sustain this momentum? And two, how do I actually monetize this without the Wolf of Wall Street vibes? And maybe three, you're just trying to make this YouTube thing just sustainable because it just feels like a heavy lift every single video. And in my mind, investing into Accelerator makes sense because one, you have data, you have existing channel data of like what works, what doesn't work, and you can use Ali's team to identify patterns, test out new formats, and to refine your content portfolio too. Another thing is like if you have data on your channel and you're having momentum, you have leverage. You don't need to do a whole content overhaul. You don't have to do the whole beginner grind. You can just make one or two small tweaks and it might change the whole game for you, right? Like one of the things I really appreciate about the team is that they do really in-depth like a channel audit, and the YouTube producer, YouTube strategist is so good at pointing out, hey, you should do this. Hey, tweak this with your thumbnail. Hey, this thumbnail is a bit confusing. Take a look at this channel. He's really good at it. So yeah, the next person that would really benefit from this is you are a creator with a content team or you're in the middle of building one. And in my opinion, this is a no-brainer because this is a team enablement solution. Like I mentioned, they get access to all the resources without you having to be there. And I think that is so important. Like for example, if you're a business owner, you shouldn't be editing. If you're going to review any of the videos, you should only review the final iteration, not the beginning drafts. And so this allows you to free up your time and energy and focus on the high leverage tasks while your team handles all the details, and the Accelerator kind of gives the feedback that is necessary to create a better piece of content. At the end of the day, I pay my editors the same, my thumbnail designers the same. And in my opinion, it increases the value of the team without your active time or energy, just through the feedback and just getting their questions answered or the advisory. If you don't have a team quite yet, totally cool. You can always talk to Angus, that is the general business manager of Ali Abdal's, and you can ask him for advice. You can go to each of the sessions. Let's say if I'm hiring a social media manager, I would go to the social media manager office hour session or the editing office hour session too. But if you do have an existing team, the only thing I would recommend is just getting their buy-in from their team first before investing into something like this. The worst case scenario is that you buy it and your team doesn't want to do it, or there's a lot of resistance. So just making sure that you have people's buy-in is so important. The next person that would benefit is your perfectionist overthinking content. So if perfection is something that is slowing you down or even stopping you from creating content to begin with, I think this is a no-brainer. Like I mentioned earlier, like having the feedback loops and advice validate your work kind of reduces the pressure to make everything perfect. And having those people in your corner just being like, yo, this is good enough. You don't need to work on this. Or maybe you just need to tweak this, but that's all you need to focus on. That helps a lot. And having the extra layer of accountability to make sure that you stay consistent and avoid overthinking is really helpful too. The other person that would benefit is that you're a creator playing the long-term game of learning YouTube, not worrying about the ROI. So maybe you're weird like me and you're just like investing into things and don't expect an ROI on them. If this is you, perfectly fine if you just want to build a strong foundation, you want to build connections, and just learn too. I think there's nothing wrong with taking the Accelerator if this is you. And there's a beauty about not expecting ROI because it facilitates the creative process. If you're always focused on like, I gotta make money, I gotta do this, then it really kills the creative process a lot of times. If you're really into making the connections, something to keep in mind is, like I mentioned, you can talk to your creator coach about getting connections there, but you have to also keep in mind that everybody in the Accelerator is pre-vetted through an interview process. So pretty much I've kind of checked most of the people and there's like no major red flags. Of course, there's always like those one or two that are kind of a bit weird, but it's all good. And like I said, while it's not as intimate as something like a mastermind or anything like that, you can connect with others pretty easily. And you can also build connections with Ali's actual team. The last person I would recommend the Accelerator to is someone who wants to revive a dying or stagnant channel. And by the way, this is kind of me. If you feel kind of stuck, you're not making a lot of progress recently, or maybe your channel is even dying like mine back in the day, an outside opinion can make the world a difference. Because there's this saying, you can't read the label inside the bottle. And I feel like this is so valuable if you've been working solo for a long time. And how it helps is that, one, you can get a channel audit to get a current state analysis. And you can also talk to the YouTube strategist about like, oh, how do I go about this problem? This is what I'm noticing. What are the possible things that I'm doing wrong? I think that advisory, whether it's your thumbnails, your retention, the way you're hooking people in, that is so important. Okay, so now that we talked about who this is possibly for, who would I recommend to avoid the Accelerator completely? One, you need to make money ASAP and you're financially stretched thin. Oh my God, there's nothing that will kill the creative process more than being in debt. So something about YouTube is that I think it's a really long-term game. I think it's just a really cool plus or bonus that you can like shoot a video, you can promote your services, potentially go viral, get subscribers to your channel, make money on the back end, and get paid AdSense on top of it. But I feel like sometimes people get that confused because like when you look at things like Facebook ads, Google ads, or anything, that's a pay to play game. Usually you have to put money into it. You could even sometimes lose money just off of that. So when I speak to people, they're just like, oh yeah, I need to make money as quickly as possible, or I need to make leads as quickly as possible. Then one of my questions is like, oh, is YouTube actually the best way to do that? There's like things like paid ads, there's all that sort of stuff. And it's not the most direct way for lead generation if you're completely brand new. In my opinion, this isn't the right fit because like you can't rush content creation. YouTube is a very special place to me because people on YouTube can feel like when you're just like trying to make a quick buck or anything like that. And if you are in a financial pinch, I usually recommend the 10% rule for any high ticket programs like the Accelerator, where if something costs more than 10% of your current income, then it's best to wait until you're in a more stable financial position to invest. Or you could just start with Academy and upgrade later. I think that is a very viable strategy. And yeah, you can use my affiliate link. The other person that I would probably recommend to avoid the Accelerator completely is like you're looking for all-in-one solution. So something to keep in mind is the Accelerator is not an agency. It's not a weekly coaching program. Let me talk about that a little bit more, the weekly coaching part a bit later. I think sometimes people go in with the expectation thinking it's a done-for-you agency where you hire us and we edit your videos and we do everything. Things like that can cost anywhere from like $3,000, $5,000, even $12,000 per month for someone to just create and manage your account. So there's that. And it's not one-on-one coaching. So there's elements of coaching, like there is like once a month creator coaches and then you can DM people. But when I think like one-on-one coaching, I think the traditional like, okay, every single week we're going to meet up for like an hour or two and we're going to discuss everything. We're going to walk you through everything in real time. Hiring one of those coaches, like I do this all the time. I buy power hours from people. Hiring a YouTube strategist can cost you anywhere from like $500 to $1,000 per hour just for one session. And so the way I like to think of the Accelerator is like it's a board of advisors for YouTube creators, right? You get your different departments, you can ask them questions. You still get an aspect of coaching, a creator coach once a month for guidance and accountability. You can do emergency sessions, but it's not the same thing as deep weekly coaching. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Another person that probably isn't good for the Accelerator is like you're only interested in lead generation, not personal branding whatsoever. So this is different if you already have momentum on YouTube. I'm talking about like the brand new beginner who just wants to like use that as a quick cash grab. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like if this is you, totally understand. But I sometimes talk to people who don't even watch YouTube and just want to use it to generate leads. And I think if this is you, you should avoid the Accelerator because one, like YouTube is a very unique place. Like if I were to give the vibe of each place, like LinkedIn is like the work water cooler where you kind of have to be still like corporate, I guess, or professional and not unhinged, right? But YouTube is like that Sunday morning content. And you don't want to be like that person wearing the tuxedo at a beach party, right? That's just weird. And so like there's a certain vibe to YouTube. And one of the best things about YouTube is like, if you want to understand it, you need to be consumer of it. The other thing too is like, if you're constantly pitching things, right? And telling people like, oh, join my lead magnet, buy my course, buy this, buy that, YouTube will punish you for going consistently off platform too. And if you want to focus more on lead gen, there's things like paid ads or like more direct response strategies that are better for lead gen goals, right? Versus like YouTube. YouTube is a lot slower. platform. When I talk to these people, I think the real reality check is like, yes, the cool thing is you can generate leads with YouTube content, but your personal brand needs to come first. And if you don't have that, then you're just going to be commoditized, because chances are there's other people with those services on YouTube who are making that content. So there's no way that you can outcompete them on this platform. The last person I probably would not recommend the Accelerator to is like, you've never posted a video, you've never run a business, and on top of that, you feel a bit hesitant about investing into something really expensive. Something I like to think about is like YouTube is kind of like a startup, and it requires a lot of action-oriented effort. There's a psychological game of being on camera and like being present to camera and writing. It's one of the most difficult social media platforms, in my opinion, because it requires you to be a really great writer, a really great designer, and also like present with the camera. You can't just like doze off into like space during a video. Well, you can, but like it wouldn't be very good, right? And especially if you're trying to put a strong emphasis on making your money back, or a strong emphasis on like being successful right away, it can lead you to just like procrastinate, to just feel overwhelmed a lot of times. And the reason why I probably not recommend it for you is like, if you don't even watch YouTube or anything like that, you'll likely feel overwhelmed. If this is you, I'd probably recommend starting with the Academy just to learn the basics and just to get started first. There's nothing wrong. Like try and ship out like 3 to 5 videos by yourself, seeing what it's like, getting punched in the face, seeing what the problems are and what you're going through, right? And I think once you're familiar with the process and you're committed to playing the long game, then you can consider something like the Accelerator and stuff like that too. So you might be wondering, well, Kevin, why are you going to invest in the Accelerator even though you're part of Ali's team? So there's a few reasons. First of all, PTYA was one of the best programs, most impactful programs that I've ever taken in my life. Honestly, I would not be working with Ali if I did not take PTYA myself. And it's really opened my eyes to like all the types of people who are in PTYA, which is like some of the best people in my life. And I think that's the number one thing that is so important, is like the creator journey can be very, very lonely, but just meeting all these relationships, all these people who have like this also similar goal of trying to do a YouTube channel. Some of them have successful YouTube channels, is really important too. But that goes back to me, where it's like, okay, I have creator friends already, but the truth is no one is going to review my videos or answer my questions for free. No one's going to review my thumbnails or anything like that for free either. In addition to that, I believe like having some sort of skin in the game a lot of times, a lot of commitment. A lot of people look at this as, hey, this is a lot of money. But for me, I look at it as really good ROI because I have my high ticket offers in place. I want to pay my team more. I want to make better videos to like spread to the world. Another thing is like probably Ali doesn't really need my money, but I also believe in supporting creators like Ali because they've had a profound like impact on my life. And I think who else is kind of attracted to that? Like, oh, other probably authentic, probably very wholesome personal brands who are also looking to grow on YouTube too. But quite honestly, like recently I've been actually growing my YouTube team. I have new editors and new thumbnail people. I'm really invested into growing that team skill set too. And I personally think that the Accelerator is one of the best programs out there if you want to execute, to get feedback as well. I've taken a lot of programs in the past, like Thumbnail University by Film Booth. I've done a lot of one-on-one coaching. I've done a lot of courses, Matt Diavella's and all that sort of stuff, even Casey Neistat and stuff. But honestly, nothing really compares to the support, the structure, and value that PTYA holds. Well, I'm pretty biased too, keep that in mind. But at least I'm open to it, right? Like I'm open about it. Specifically, I'm going to be taking advantage of the feedback on content packaging, like the titles, the thumbnails and topics, feedback on retention, so getting input on our videos before publishing, and then just getting general advisory for our team too, like access to the office hours and real-time support too. That's what I really care about, is how do I add more things? How do I invest into the system that helps us kind of like get feedback, refine it, grow our channel, and scale effectively too. By the way, I did not submit this video for video feedback from the team at all, so they didn't tell me what to put in here at all. But anyways, if you found this video helpful and you want to support my vision for zero cost creator knowledge, please use my affiliate link. Links in the description below. It helps support my team as we continue to make better content for you guys. And then before you go, here's another video that the algo gods think you'll enjoy. See you next time. Peace, my people. Bye.